Yeah. Thank y'all for tapping into the YMDR podcast. I'm going to give y'all a few updates about myself and everything as time is progressing or as we are going through this video. So, yeah, y'all. Just stay tuned and it be lit. What comes to my mind and what I just want to talk to y'all about as far as it goes, the new kind of like some new information that kind of just came up to me today. That I really feel like this is information that I feel is coming out of me kind of like this morning ish. I woke up, I had kind of slept almost all day today, man. Like I had a little bit of just sleeping all in and kind of had to pray about some things, pray about some stuff, be genuine about some things, etc. Just had to really tap in with that today as I um, pretty much just woke up today. So a lot of what kind of maneuvered around in my head, was something that when I woke up, I saw this post and it said something about, you know, prisoners. It said something about prisoners, and I guess it said to the effect that when you think about prisoners, the way to keep somebody as a prisoner is to make them believe that they are not in prison. You know what I mean? And what came to my mind, I would say, was something that I definitely had to pray on and definitely had to think about. Definitely had to kind of put some deep concept into. And this morning, like, that's really just what kind of transpired. Like I was thinking about that, and then I did a little bit of a design today. So I was about to get some food, and I'm probably am gonna get some in a few. But um, that's a little bit of what my little update kind of consisted of today. Just thinking on and pondering on that idea, and so I wanted to put that into the topic that we can kind of talk on to give some relevant answers or relevant clarity to what that topic can entail when we think about the concept of a prisoner um, and how you can fool someone into being a prisoner. We're going to kind of speak on that topic today. I don't have too much, like I said, I don't have too much of any updates as of right now. What I kind of just my daily updates or whatever, but that's just a little bit of what I felt needed to be talked about as I woke up today and did my normal routine and got on TikTok and did some other stuff later, etc. So yeah. So I feel what we can wire this topic in particular, what we can kind of call this topic in general, is slavery and freedom. So that's what's kind of coming to my mind about it is we can call it slavery and freedom. Um, and what I feel like too, if we really like point the concept to, you know, people being, imprisoned in certain ways like this, um, the first thing I think we can wire just when we're getting into this conversation is how do we really understand or tap in with the concept of being in prison. Um, First and foremost, you have to look at what it is that you are doing in your life that is causing you to be imprisoned from the first part. You have to look in the first place. You have to see what is causing me to be doing the things that I am doing um, in the ways that I'm doing it. And when you can identify these things being what they are, and you have to ask yourself, too, in you identifying them, how are they helping me grow into a better person? How are they evolving my mindset or elevating my sense of reality moving forward? You know? And what I can say just in the midst of that, like that can even be, if we look at a lot of things, it's that the world has kind of given us to kind of analyze and stuff, and how we analyze it and what we put into it, what we see just in the midst of that is, a lot of these things are kind of almost how we've been heard from a lot of different people. Like they give us this prisoner type of mentality. You know what I'm saying? And I think that if you boil down a lot of what you see from certain people and certain things, you will see and realize how they are able to use this imprisonment type of method, you know? And I guess the first way to kind of, test to this idea or see it is by really taking into consideration, like, uh, what I am doing as a person. You know what I'm saying? This stuff can be said for some of the topics that we've talked about on the podcast. If you haven't known, we've talked about relationships and we've talked about toxicity. If you boil down the concepts of toxicity and you think of imprisonment, what you get is they both correspond with each other. When you really think about the idea of somebody being in a toxic relationship with someone, what you get from that is literally the concept of enslavement, imprisonment. People don't think that that's where it's coming from, but ultimately, if you are constantly going back to it over and over again and it is not leading you to a place of elevation, why do you think that person or said individual is doing that in particular? It's used for control. You know what I'm saying? And I tell a lot of people through my brand, if y'all don't know, I tell them a lot through my brand that my brand is about impact. And the impact that I'm talking about really is an impact that has to do with control. You know what I'm saying? That's why I always say, stay impacted, never controlled. In my brand kind of reference, when I'm talking about YMD Records, I'm saying that because what I am ultimately giving people the analyzation to understand is that being impacted doesn't have anything to do with the imprisonment or the control of others. You know what I'm saying? When you impact somebody or you give them an understanding on something, that is a sense of you helping them to move into a place of freedom more than a place of control. And so when I boil down a lot of why I feel like these things in society have created a lot of sense of imprisonment for us is because a lot of us are not able to identify kind of the spiritual references or the spiritual essences that some of these things are actually giving to us. A lot of us have become atheists. A lot of us have become bisexual, or a lot of us have become a lot of different things. And what that kind of entails, whether we know it or not, is the same imprisonment that that I saw in this little meme thing that I had posted on my TikTok. And I feel that maybe the reason this stuff kind of comes to my mind and why I'm speaking on this is because a lot of the times people will read the Bible and put the Bible into this religious concept. And what I want y'all to kind of think for a minute and do for a minute is to don't look at the Bible from this religious tool concept. Look at the Bible and look at God from this concept that God is actually, whether we know this or not, God is trying to preach to us freedom through his spiritual divine revelation, right? But when we look at the world does not have that divine revelation. So therefore, that's why it chases this concept of control. That's why it chases this concept of imprisonment. And therefore, that's also why, we have these times where we're saying that it feels like we are kind of enchained and we have anxiety and we have depression and etc. A lot of these things are coming into play because what I feel like God kind of told me today, and this was just said like 5 seconds ago. He said that when it comes to the essence of who I am, God, I want to invite people into freedom. Satan, in the world that you live in, wants to invite you into slavery. Now I had to ponder that for a second, and I was like, what type of idea does that mean, and what could that possibly be bringing into corresponding knowledge and understanding? What could that mean? And what I really think about when I heard it is that it really just gave me this idea, put two and two together. When we really boil it down to, our essence, and I know I probably said that a lot in videos. I'm realizing I'm saying that a lot in videos. But when we, really kind of analyze this and we see it from where we're needing to see it, it just seems like that would be a valid answer as to why God and the devil are not the same people or not the same spiritual things. When we think of Satan, Satan has entities. God is a spiritual force. So when you think of the essence of God and why he's more of a force that is trying to help someone become a sense of free instead of enslaved, we think that is why he is putting these corresponding things within the Bible for us to kind of go over and build on. God doesn't, I don't think he's putting these things in the Bible to try to say that we need to be enslaved to him. I mean, there's a part in there that literally has communicated said ideas of, a person being a slave in Christ. But I think if we really put a different thermometer on that, what we will see is God is still trying to say that the very reason you are connecting with him is off of freedom. You don't have to connect with God if you don't want to. You're not forced to. But if you connect with God, you can tap into your freedom. Whereas to Satan, because he controls the media outlets and possibly even the things that are in certain people's lives and etc., and probably even Hollywood, that's the reason, like, he is preaching slavery or imprisonment. Because in his mind, he doesn't think people needs to be free. So that already tells us when we think of God that he's against God's concept of wanting humans to be free. And that's something you should ponder. When we really look at that and really take those things into consideration, we have to really start to redefine and re-examine what we are giving ourselves to in this world. When we think of saying that we need to be Satanists, or saying that we need to be under pornography, or we need to be under a look of certain things, or how certain people are supposed to look, we have to take those things into consideration, because our ability and our freedom that God has created for us in this life can ultimately be attacked in that reality. A lot of that has, if we even boil this down to y'all, like when we used to go to malls and when we used to socialize with people, the times when people say kind of like the good old days, when we used to connect with people and tap in with people and get to know people. We weren't afraid to talk to other individuals. We weren't always thinking that talking with other people or interacting with other people was strange. We used to play video games with each other. That's why some of these arcades in malls are dead. That's why some of these different things that we used to do that were used for interaction have this literally up jumping and damn near faded away. And we have to think of that from this place of, did we as the human race allow the comfortability of connecting with people and spending time with people, did we let that actually turn into this ideology that we are more enslaved to a certain thing or a certain device in our minds that has caused us to not be able to do what we used to do as the human race? Those things have to be taken into consideration. We have to look at that and think of that and almost put into contrast that that might be why now when we look at ourselves in 2024 in this modern world, in this generation Z, and everything that the world has created now, what we see now is it's created this concept that we need to just think that we don't need to be around people. But maybe that was done for slavery. We don't need to be in person with someone. We need to trust in AI. Maybe that was done for slavery. We don't need to interact with our families. We need to watch TV and be TV addicts. Maybe that was done for slavery. The list can go on, y'all. It can go on and on and on and on. It can even go into the world of relationships and toxicity. A lot of what we see now, y'all, and what it seems like is that this imprisonment that Satan has created is all around us. And we have to be the people to know how to determine what can we do to get back to that freedom. And I think with my brand, when I even think about my brand in general, YMDR and what I created it to be, I look at that and I say to myself, that was why I like doing this brand. Because I feel freedom from doing YMDR. I don't feel bondage. And I think that was what I felt when I used to have to deal with problems from certain situations that had to do with my mother and other different things. And I don't hold that against her to this day as if she did something wrong, but I use that story as a way to identify that I remember how I was in bondage to not being able to grow and be myself because I was under the bondage of something that was trying to make me not be myself. And I use that as a pillar to say now I have become someone who values the freedom and the creation of the things that I do now so much that that's why I fight and value it a lot more than just this idea that I have to be controlled. Because if I wanted to be controlled, let's be honest, I wouldn't even be building on YMDR to begin with. Hell, I would have just told my mom from a real place, and this is me being honest as hell, I would have just told my mom from a real place just to get her to shut the fuck up about me being a Christian instead of being a Hebrew Israelite. I would have just told her that I'm just going to believe that what you're talking about with being a Hebrew Israelite is true. And I'm damn for sure just going to release all of what I thought I wanted to do out the window and just become a drunk person and just become all of these other different things. There's a lot of sporadic things that ran through my head when I think about that now, is that I had moments I was like at an edging point where I said I was going to just give the fuck up, similar to a lot of people. But I think from that small essence of what God was trying to get me to understand was the freedom that I had from being what he wanted me to be, was what he was saying you were going to be sacrificing if you sat there and kept thinking. You couldn't be yourself. Which was the very reason I just said to myself, hey man, I'm just going to have to fight it out for as long as I can. Because what I want people to realize, even if I don't got no family holding me down, even if I don't got a chick who likes me for the right fucking reasons, I'm not going to let my freedom be the reason why I just give up. I'm not gonna let this imprisoned mindset make me think I don't need to be free. Because what God's freedom actually brought me into now, when I think about it, is He brought me into a freedom that isn't defined by these things in the world. I don't much get involved with everything that the world technically has to offer, utilize, and participate in. That's why I don't believe that I'm a hoe bag to women. That's why I don't believe I am a what they call those modern terms of fucking uh, uh, um, my brain is just in a warp. But I just don't believe a lot of the things that the world's modern concepts have thought that I needed to be. And a lot of that is just coming from a place of literally, like, that's probably why, like, I can always think and motivate myself to elevate further than just trying to be like a hoe to women, or trying to be just all these other different things the world has created. Like, I can elevate past that idea and always want to move forward and build on greater things. That in itself is showing people that the freedom that I have from me choosing God has actually created a sense of me being able to motivate myself from that instead of what the world has, and it labels me somebody who is able to move forward in the freedom that was there. There's a part in the Bible that even communicates, once you get free, make sure that you stay free. Make sure that you stay free. And that concept bubbles in my head and just tells me, like, that's possibly why when I look at the world and I look at people and I look at concepts that people have created and I look at ideologies that they've said about Jesus and I look at ideas that they've created through homosexuality and I look at, you know, forms of Catholicism, and I look at, you know, things that have to do with, atheism and all these other different formalities like witchcraft and other different shit, I see myself not added to those equations. And the only reason I see them not added to those equations is because God has literally told me that's the freedom. That's the freedom that a lot of us really have to come to as people. Because there's something that God is underlining in that. You know? And when I really, you know, not to just get so much into a rambling stage about it, but if I just really put those two things into retrospect, is that for God, God is about freedom and Satan is about control or imprisonment. It just tells us in this day and age, brothers and sisters, this is why we got to quit this idea of what these people have created. They even label this shit the Matrix, for God's sake. No disrespect to God, but they even label it that. They label, if you are, I remember even hearing this word for word, that somebody said, if you act toxic, a certain kind of toxic way, what are, you know, it was somebody who was explaining, what is your toxic trait that you like to do over and over again to get somebody back into the matrix of the relationship that you're dealing with them. Let me know. And it just, it gave me this idea that, gosh damn, like, even with that, some people don't even see how the toxicity from that and the imprisonment from that, literally is right before their very eyes. Like, y'all, like, when I point these things, just in this idea, and just what comes to my mind from it, all in all, I it gives me just more awareness to why I have told people for probably a pretty long time as to why I was creating YMDR, and why I told people that, this is why um, we need to find ways to maneuver our way from this concept of slavery that the world has created. Because ultimately, the world's not using these concepts of slavery and the New World Order and, gaming tags that go on our faces, social media, phones, technology. They're not just using this for us to utilize as a way to give us this idea that says, wow, new technology, new understanding, new concepts. Sometimes there are deeper messages within the concepts that people are creating. Sometimes those messages aren't just, this is new technology. This is so you can have no interaction with people. But this is for that. Sometimes there are messages in things that are pretty clear, that some people want us to be imprisoned. And if you are strong enough to understand that that comes from the government you're living in, that comes from the world you're living in, it comes from the entertainers you're watching, then you can live in the freedom that God wants you to bring into yourself. And again, that doesn't come from a religious place. I am not a religious dictator. I will not tell you to believe in God by force. I will tell you to understand God from a place of freedom, and help you understand for yourself how to maneuver with God and how to build with Him from a place of escaping the imprisonment, the slavery, because that's ultimately what they've created. And it's your choice to take that upon yourself and utilize it for the right reasons. Because at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, we have a job to do. And the job that God wants us to do does not consist of us only trusting what Satan is saying on earth because he got kicked out of heaven, and he thinks that we need to be fucking slaves to this bullshit that really is just trying to murder the human race to begin with. We have to really take into consideration we don't need that in order to be us. We need to tap into what we really are as individuals that are without certain shit. And just see how it goes. See what happens if we analyze and separate ourselves from certain shit that we do, whether it's toxicity, whether it's atheism, whether it's homosexuality, whether it's whatever it is. What happens if we just stop doing it and try to open our minds to the analyzation of what it could bring us into on the opposite of that? Because some things are only the way that they are, and some realities only exist the same way. Because a lot of us are not seeing that elevation is right before our footsteps. They're right in front of us. We just have to be people who understand what happens if we cut something off in our lives that is trying to say we are prisoners to it. Just see how it goes. And brothers and sisters, I think if you do that, or if you come to that conclusion, you will unlock the rebel mindset that you're really supposed to have as an individual, because ultimately Jesus was a rebel. Jesus was not what we think he was in this contrast. He was timid to the reality of life. Jesus knew that these people who he was affiliating with, they were people who were being taught to be enslaved by their realities. And the very reason he told them to be a rebel between that aspect was because he was trying to say, if you're a rebel, those motherfuckers ain't going to be able to stop you from being anything. They're not going to be able to control you. And that's a lot of what the world has created today. The world likes controlling people who are under pornographic material. The world likes to control people who are under sexual endeavors. The world likes to control people who are slaves to television, social media, and possibly toxicity. The world likes to control people like that. But if you give them a taste of their own medicine, which is actually a different type of maneuver away from that shit, then you become something that those motherfuckers can't control anymore. AKA freeing yourself from their ability to say that you are simple, when in God's eyes, you are the opposite of simple. You are complex. You have way more to think and bring into the world than just the simplistic shit that Satan has created for you to be. And that's just keeping it real. It's your choice, brothers and sisters, to do such things. It's your choice. Ain't nobody forcing you to do it. This isn't a forced concept. Again, this is just me trying to say this from a place of understanding freedom and understanding imprisonment. Don't be a fucking prisoner anymore. Be a free vessel that God created. Stand with God. Not because of religious tendencies. Stand with God because right now he wants you to fight for your freedom. And you can't fight for your freedom if you're enslaved by some bullshit like this that the world has created. Especially if you're a Satanist. Because let's just be real, my last intake on that. Even Satan does not care if you waste your life on the idea that you did all of this shit in order to get to where you got to. Doesn't fucking matter what you do in Satan's eyes. You can do whatever the fuck you want, but guess what? You're doing that literally for nothing, because he's not going to use that to reimburse you. He's not going to use that to help you. He's not even going to use it if you chatted 666 on your ass cheek. Nothing you do for Satan tells you or gives a concept that he's going to reimburse you. And that should tell you. That's why he's pushing slavery. Through people and through certain shit. That's why he's doing it. And all I can say is you're the person who can say to yourself today that I don't want to be involved with that. I want to tap in with something the opposite. So, yeah, y'all. Just an idea. What's good with y'all, man? Thank y'all so much for tapping into the YMDR podcast. This is just one of the topics that came to my mind in the midst of the situation, and I just was really excited to talk to y'all about it and put it out here for y'all to understand. If y'all want to, hey man, give my page a like, a share, a comment. Tell me in the comments what you literally think about this concept or what you think that it is, representing to you, let me know in the comments. Be a part of the YMDR platform. All the things YMDR, you can go to, Facebook, the what is it, the Instagram, the TikTok, all those things. You can go to that. The website will be up eventually. I have to get the website kind of in order for that type of stuff to happen. If you want orders of clothing, other different things, you can let me know. I can talk to you about it or inbox you about it. Even if I'm not able to have a store right now from the website yet, you can just still DM me about it and let me know if that's something you want to take part in with, supporting the brand. Until next time, y'all, this has been the YMDR podcast. Peace out.